Here's today's recipe. You can stop the video and take a picture if you'd like. Hi, welcome to Baking Club with me, Marion. Now, as you can see, we're kind of low tech here. I do not have multiple cameras. I just have my laptop and I'm bending the screen forward so you can see me and my counter. We're going to do this step by step. You ready? Okay. You should already have printed out your whole wheat peasant bread recipe. If you don't have that, go ahead and stop this recording. Oh, and we're not live, so you can pause this thing anytime you want. Anyway, we're going to do this step by step. If you don't have your recipe printed out yet, let me just show it to you so that it's recorded here. And if you need to write it down, then you can. So there it is, the whole wheat peasant bread recipe, and that means 1.5 tablespoons, not 15. Okay, that's just the way I truncate things. Okay, so water, 1.5 to 3 tablespoons, honey. T, capital T for me means tablespoons. Smaller t means teaspoons. Okay, good. So 3 tablespoons of olive oil, 1.5 teaspoons of salt, 6 cups of whole wheat flour, and I usually combine mine with rye. I had some spelt before, but now I happen to have rye today. And here are the instructions. These are the things that we're going to do together. And again, if you don't have this written down or printed out, you're welcome to write it down now. Just stop the video as you get ready to write it. Okay. Okay, very good. All right. Hopefully you got that. And if you don't, you can always contact me. Okay. So we're going to do this step by step so that I tell you what I like to do when I'm cooking. Okay. First of all, I'm going to put the mouse to my computer away, and I've got my yeast out. This is a yeast bread, and I need my yeast, which I always have in my refrigerator. I need it out of the refrigerator, ready to be used. It needs to, well, it's not cool down, but it needs to go to about room temperature and not be used straight out of the refrigerator. Okay, so I got my yeast out, but now I need to get my area clean. Okay, so here we go. Got my rag. I'm going to use some warm water. Wipe down my counters. So that I make sure that that's clean, and then I'm going to get my ingredients out. Okay, I'll need this rag for later, so I'll get that ready. Already cleaned off. There we go. Now, one thing I want, I have a stool that I can sit on and talk to you now and then, and you'll notice too that my hair is already pulled back because I'm going to try not to have my hair in my whole wheat bread. I'm not selling it to anybody, so I guess if my husband buys my hair, he can just say, ooh, gross, and then eat the bread. But we don't want to have that happen if you're going to give this bread away, or even if you're going to eat it in your own home. We try to minimize the amount of extra items such as hair that gets in our food. Okay, so my hair is pulled back. I washed my counter. I gotta wash my hands. Still washing over here. Okay, got it. All right. And of course, I moved my towel so that I didn't have easy access to it. That's all right. So now I've got my towel. Got it all taken care of, hands washed, yay. All right, now I'm gonna gather everything. I know I need my measuring spoons, a whole set of them. I need my measuring cups. How many do I need? 3 cups of hot water. So I'm gonna get out my glass measuring cup. Okay, so that'll hold my 3 cups of hot water without a problem. Like I said, I already have my yeast out. I also have my recipe printed out on this and leaning here so it's easy for me to see. Usually I just do my recipe in half. I mean, as in it's half a sheet a page, and I put it in my little half notebook. It's not a full notebook, and that's where I have all of my recipes. But for this, it's easier to see if I have it printed out big. So there you go. What else do I need? I got my yeast. Yay! I got my this and this. Do I need anything else? Oh, yes, I do. 3 tablespoons. I'm going to need 3 tablespoons of that. So I'm going to cheat a little and I'll tell you what that is later. And when I need to use it. Okay, so I'm going to use that. Good, thank you. And then I've got that. That's good. And now I need all my ingredients besides the yeast, right? So my hot water. Now, when I do yeast and hot water, what I usually do is just let the tap get kind of warm. Well, very warm. And I'll show you more about that in a little slideshow that I have for you. Okay. You have to get the water just right. Otherwise, the yeast will either won't work right. It won't do its growing thing. Too hot kills it, too low, and it doesn't work. So that's about where I want it. I don't want to get it yet because I'm not ready with everything else. So everything else, what else do I need? It says in the recipe that you can use honey or molasses. I usually don't, just because I am diabetic, and so I have to be careful of anything that's sugar intake. I have used it throughout the whole entire bread. It's not too bad for me, and the sugar content is kind of supposed to help the yeast actually grow. So maybe I'll go ahead and use what? I'll go ahead and use, no, I won't use it today. You guys can. It tastes really good with the molasses or with the honey. Okay, so what do I want next? Olive oil, and it also says, or applesauce, or leave it out altogether in the recipe. I'm going to use my olive oil. So, whew, there we go. Oh, yeah, I got enough. Good. All right, what else do I need? I need salt. Where's my salt? Oh no, here it is. Good. Phew. Found that. Now I need my whole wheat flour. This recipe is so nice. It has so few ingredients and tastes good. So here we go. I got to go grab my flour now. I keep it in big bins. Just because I use flour for making things. It's kind of fun just looking at the kitchen, right? Okay, don't look at the kitchen. Look at your kitchen, gather your ingredients. Now I have my whole wheat flour, but like I said, I like to mix it, so I have my rye flour as well. And now I've got all my items. Oh, but I don't have a big bowl to mix it in. And that's kind of important if you're making anything. So I'm gonna grab a big bowl. There, now you can watch me as I do my thing as well. All right, who last washed this dish? You're in trouble, probably me. All right, so I have my big bowl, yay. Spoon, I need my big spoon. Let's see, I'm gonna use this one, okay? Got it. Are you ready? It is time. So now I can get my hot water 3 cups hot water in here, okay? And this is how I do my yeast. I actually proof the yeast, which means I like to watch it kind of poof up before I add everything else. But you can mix in all of your dry stuff that you need along with your yeast, and then add in your water. But I'm going to do it this way where I proof the yeast first. So I get my water hot. Not too hot, not too cold. I don't know what to tell you. If you have a temperature thermometer, you can start playing with that. When it starts to feel kind of hot for me, as in like I don't want to keep my hand in there too long, that's about when I go ahead and fill this up. So I've got my hot water in here. Now I'm going to read it at the 3 cup line. And the reason is I need to look at it to make sure that my water is where it's supposed to be. It's a little bit low. I'm not too worried about it, but I'll go ahead and do it. Just so that you see, sometimes you need to put it on a level spot, look at it, and you need to look at the bottom of the meniscus. That's your science word for the day, all right? The water level comes up, and if you look at it, it goes here, and then there's this little drop down, tiny little drop down from the water level, and that's the bottom of the meniscus. I knew you were curious about that. Okay, so I need 1.5 tablespoons of dry yeast. I have my tablespoon. I'm going to sprinkle it in. I'm not going to just pour it in randomly here or chunk it in. Okay. 1/2 tablespoon is the same thing as 1.5 teaspoons. So I've got 1 teaspoon. I have 1/2 teaspoon. If you are lucky enough to have a 1/2 tablespoon with your set, then you can just use it. But 1.5 tablespoons is 1 tablespoon plus 1 tablespoon plus a teaspoon plus a 1/2 teaspoon. All righty. So there, got that going. I'm going to give it a little bit of a stir to get the yeast down underneath into the water. Now, check this out. I have to show you. I've always loved watching yeast do the proof thing. Right there on top, you can see little bits of chunkiness left. But yeast is so neat looking. It's like it explodes on the top. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add, I have to raise you up a little so I can see you. All right, I'm going to go ahead and add my oil into this. I could have just put my water and my yeast in here, wasn't thinking, but that's all right. So now I'm going to add my oil in there. I'm not going to use sweetener, 3 tablespoons of oil. This is a 1/8 cup. That is the same thing as 2 tablespoons. So I use that just to make it easier. I'll use one of these plus a tablespoon instead of doing 3 tablespoons at one time. Now, I need a little bit more oil. I'm going to go ahead and add it right there. Now that's only 2 tablespoons, and my recipe calls for 3, and I'm going to go ahead and get this out and do one more little gloop. If you are using honey or molasses, One of the things that I do is I'll put in my oil first in my tablespoon, put that in, then the extra oil that's here makes the honey or the molasses easier to get out of the spoon. Just a little tip there, something that I do anyway. You can do it or not do it as you wish. All right, so where am I? We got the yeast, I got the oil. Good. Now I need the salt. I'm looking to see if my yeast is exploding. I always call it that it looks like it's exploding when I'm proofing my yeast. Maybe I'll show you that, the explosion of yeast, later. Right now, I'm going to go ahead and dump this into my bowl and add the rest of the ingredients. So, all right, hot water, honey or molasses if you did that. Olive oil, I got it. Now I need 1.5 teaspoons of salt. Is that what I said? Yeah, 1.5 teaspoons salt. Sorry, sometimes okay. I often look at my recipe 2 or 3 times just to make sure that I told myself the right amount. Sometimes if I'm in a hurry, I end up goofing up the recipe because I'm looking at the wrong line or the small letter and the big letter. Anyway, you get the drift. Pay attention, you guys. All right. Do not lick your fingers in all of this process. Just telling you in advance because you might want to do that. Now, the next ingredient says that it's 6 cups whole wheat or flour, right? Well, you're not going to do that all at once. You're going to do it a bit at a time. I see I forgot my dry 1 cup measuring cup. So I'm going to start with the rye for me. If you guys are doing just whole wheat, then just go ahead and go with your whole wheat. But I'm going to start with my rye because I like the taste a little, I like the taste to be a little bit stronger than the wheat itself. Okay, so now let me show you how you're supposed to do this. So you've got your scoop, right? Using the back of a table knife, you put that across the whole, can you see that? I'm putting it across, okay, the whole thing. I'm not digging in. Then I scrape that off. Now I have 1 cup. And I want 3 cups. 1, 2. Oh no, I didn't use the back of the knife. Why not? Well, because I've been making bread so long, I can see it and it's fine. I'm going to do 1 more. And what I usually do is I just kind of shake it down so that it's not heaping. See how this is still heaping over the top? I don't want the over the top. So I'm going to get rid of some. See, that's a little bit better. Okay. There, 3. Good. Done with the rye. I'm going to need the whole wheat though a little bit later. Or well, actually not too much later. I'm going to gently stir this in. Get it all in there. I'm not going to act like a beater and just, no, no, no. I'm just gently stirring it in. letting all of those ingredients get mixed up together. Okay. Now that seems like it's nice and mixed enough. It's still super lumpy. I'm not worried about that because guess what? We have more flour to put in. So we've got our 1 cup again. Now I'm going to use my whole wheat flour. Now, if you look at the recipe, it says 2 to 3 cups flour. So I'm putting in 2 to 3 cups more. Am I automatically going to put in 3? Absolutely not. And the reason is because you don't want this to be super, 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 super floured to where it's just dry. That does not a good bread make. So it says 2 to 3 cups. I'm going to start with just 2 and then see if I have the sticky dough that I need. 1. And 2. Okay, so I got that in, but I'm going to keep this together, keep it ready to go. So let's see how sticky or not sticky my dough is. And this might take you a little bit of effort here, might take you a while. Now, if you happen to have one of those blenders that's this heavy duty blender and has a dough hook and can take bread dough, then by all means use that. But stirring bread is how I get to be so tough. I'm kidding, of course. But it can be tough. So if you have help, great. If not, keep trying, keep working. Sometimes I go all the way down, and sometimes I'm up here at the top, stirring it around. Okay, now look. I don't know if you can see my dough. That's still too wet. It's still more very moist, and I need it to look a little bit more doughy. So I'm going to go ahead, because if I put my hand in that, it's going to wrap around my hand. It's too sticky. So I'm going to add some more wheat flour. Okay. Sorry, I should have gotten my smaller scoop. There we go. Okay. I have my cup here. I'm not putting in this whole cup. I'm just going to sprinkle it in. I'm going to see if that will work. Okay, I haven't used the whole thing. If I need it, I've got it ready. So now I'm going back in and I'm pushing it around, getting that flour worked into the dough. And if you keep pushing it around, you'll see spots in your dough that doesn't have the flour all over it. So just keep working it, keep working and working and working. Oh my goodness, we're slaving away. We're having to work. This isn't supposed to be work. Baking is supposed to be nothing but fun, fun, fun. Well, the eating will be very exciting. Until then, you got to work. Okay. Okay, now mine is stiff, it's thick, and as I stir it, it's starting to form into a ball and not go out like you would see if you were making like a pancake batter. And I am good with this. So I actually ended up using about 2.5 cups, not another 3 cups. I used the 2 and then I used about another half. All right, that is fine. Now, guess what you're going to do? Well, if you're looking at the recipe, you know what we're going to do. Okay, I'm just getting some of that off my spoon, and I have no idea why I'm getting that off my spoon, because guess what? I'm leaving it in there. You know what I didn't bring next to me? Paper towels. And I meant to show you, oh, look, I have paper towels with me, because my hands always get messy when I'm baking. And if you weren't watching, I would have licked that dough right off my hands. But you know what? We're being good. We're keeping everything clean and nice. We're not licking our fingers like I said I wanted to, or that we would want to. Okay, so we are going to let this rest. I don't know why they call it resting, but you got to let the flour sit for 15 minutes. Where did I put my timer? I have my timer. I'm going to set it for 15 minutes, and I actually have it already set for 15 minutes. If I can just get the glare, there we go. So I have it set for 15 minutes. I'm going to start that timer. And now, if you're letting yours set for 15 minutes, you can watch a slideshow that I prepared just for you. Let me get my screen ready. I'm going to share it, share, and there we have it. I'm going to start this, and that might take about 10 minutes, and then we'll still have about 5 minutes left.
Yeast is a single-celled organism that belongs to the...
All right, I stopped that share because I realized I forgot to share the sound on my screen. So, share screen. I'm going to share the sound. Good. And I'm going to start all over again with that slideshow. Here we go.
Fungi kingdom? It's fungus, just like mushrooms. There are more than 500 species and thousands of varieties. A single cell of yeast is 3 to 5 microns in diameter. Visible colonies of yeast, as in yeast that you can actually see, are composed of at least 1 million cells. A package of yeast used for cooking contains billions of cells.
So, still not working quite right. I just pushed my mute button and the whole thing stopped. So let me try this one more time, and let's see if I can get this right. Hold on. I just have to, hold on. There we go. All right. Try it one more time, or 2 or 3. It should work now. This may not be live, but I'm not going back through to figure out how to get this all prettified. All right, share screen. Here we go. Share sound. Yes, that's it. Share the picture. Share the slideshow. Start the slideshow. And go.
Yeast is a single-celled organism that belongs to the fungi kingdom. It's fungus, just like mushrooms. There are more than 500 species and thousands of varieties. A single cell of yeast is 3 to 5 microns in diameter. Visible colonies of yeast, as in yeast that you can actually see, are composed of at least 1 million cells. A package of yeast used for cooking contains billions of cells. Yeast is widely dispersed in nature in a wide variety of habitats. They're found on leaves, flowers, fruit, as well as in soil. Yeast is also found on the surface of the skin and in the intestinal tracts of warm-blooded animals such as you and me, cats, dogs, where they may live symbiotically or as parasites. Anthony, Von Leeuwenhoek saw the cells of yeast under the microscope in 1680. Do you see that thing that he's holding? That is a microscope that he created. But he failed to identify the yeast as living entities. Nearly 2 centuries later, in 1857, Louis Pasteur discovered that cells of yeast are responsible for the brewing of beer. Yeast keeps your digestive system healthy and in balance. The right amount of yeast in your body helps your immune system do its job. Yeast is part of a healthy mix of bacteria in your gut. It can help you absorb vitamins and minerals from your food and even fight disease. Brewer's yeast is often used as food supplement due to high content of vitamins of the B group. Some species of yeast can induce various diseases in humans and animals, and that's where the healthy part is not. You see the last picture there is actually the inside of a mouth, and the yeast has overgrown and has created too much yeast, and that's how you end up with thrush and other things in your body, a yeast infection. Where do baby yeast come from? Well, yeast forms buds, small protrusions on one side of the cell that grow in size, mature, and eventually detach. That's the picture on the left. This type of reproduction is called asymmetric division. Now, in some species of yeast, mother cell divides into 2 equal daughter cells. This is known as fission. So we've got 2 different ways for those baby yeasts to come about. In order to make yeast, you have to grow it. Manufacturers start off with an existing yeast culture and put them in small flasks, then larger, then finally into tanks, and they finally get it all done in all of the different tanks as they're trying to grow it until they end up drying the yeast and packaging it. There's also special yeast like creamed yeast, so it's not quite, it's not the freeze-dried kind. The most common use of yeast has been in the making of bread. Yeast reacts with oxygen and helps leaven the bread or make it rise. During Passover, Jewish people will remove the yeast from bread to make flat bread. There is evidence the ancient Egyptians used yeast to make bread around 4,000 years ago. Brewing wine and beer has also used yeast for centuries to ferment the mixture to make it alcoholic. Different kinds of yeast are used to make ale, lager, spirits, and wine. Root beer and other soft drinks use yeast to add flavor, but the fermentation process is stopped before the drink becomes alcoholic. This means the drinks are much sweeter than the alcoholic counterparts and contain more carbon dioxide. And this is interesting. Due to the cellular makeup of yeast, many scientists use it to learn more about human genetics. Studies of yeast cultures led directly to the mapping of the human genome. Most recently, yeast has been used in the production of biofuels. This is because the yeast turns sugar into ethanol, which can be used as a diesel substitute in vehicles. The process it goes through is identical to that of making beer or wine. Many of the probiotic drinks available now use yeast as a supplement, and of course you can get them in capsule form as well. Many vegetarians use yeast as a supplement due to low protein and vitamin amounts in their normal diet. Yeast can also be processed to create yeast extract. This is then used in a variety of food products such as Marmite and Vegemite. Now there are ways to have bread rise without yeast. such as baking soda and lemon juice, baking powder and whipped egg whites. And if you actually want to know how to do those yeast substitutes, you will have to look it up. Just ask for you. I mean, just do an internet search of yeast substitutes so you know exactly how to do that. Now I want you to see what heat can do to yeast. At 300 degrees to 400 degrees Fahrenheit, the surface temperature of the browning crust, the bread in the oven, that's the temperature. So it's pretty hot in there. Then it's 200 degrees for an interior temperature of a loaf of just baked bread. So you get that bread out, you split it open, and it's 200 degrees. Now, quite frankly, you see the person has the cloth in one hand, but it's not really covering the other hand. So that's probably not a good idea, and that probably means that that bread really isn't 200 degrees right there and probably just didn't come out of the oven just now. But the temperature is 200, and just to give you an idea, look over to the boiling point of water. We're about sea level here, and the boiling point is 212 degrees Fahrenheit. And I doubt you would stick your hand into a pot of boiling water. Please don't. But remember that bread just from the oven can be very hot too. Don't put your hand all over the bread when it first comes out. Now, yeast cells die at about 130 degrees to 140 degrees Fahrenheit. And some yeast cells, though, from what I've studied, might go into a dormant state and be able to come back alive. All right, so next we have the temperature of water for dry yeast reconstituted with water and sugar. Okay, so here we have a bowl of water with yeast that's been stirred in, and to make that yeast bloom, as it were, you see it on the top, is 105 degrees Fahrenheit to 115 degrees Fahrenheit. You just have to be careful with the water temperature. Too hot and it won't work the way it's supposed to. Now the temperature, if you've mixed the yeast in with your dry ingredients, is supposed to be about 120 to 130 degrees Fahrenheit to get that yeast to do its thing to help the bread rise. But too little temperature, if the temperature is too low, like at 100 degrees Fahrenheit and lower, when that yeast is mixed with that water, it's too low and the dough is sticky and hard to handle. I've just noticed that when I've gone too low with my water, too low temp, then the bread doesn't rise as well either. So you may be asking yourself, why did I put a slide of the refrigerator on here? That's because that's where I always keep my yeast. But yeast gets cold in there, and at 40 degrees is where the temperature usually is, about an average refrigerator. The yeast gets too cold, so you may need to bring it out before you actually use it so that it can get about room temperature, and then the yeast will work a little bit better. So that's why you have a picture of a refrigerator there. There you go. You've got heat and yeast, and you've learned a little bit about yeast itself.
Alrighty, so according to my clock, we've got a couple minutes, and this is the time usually that I go ahead and start oiling up what I'm going to put my bread on. All right, so this is a peasant bread. I love peasant breads. They're super easy. They don't have to be kneaded. Kneading is when you get the dough and you push it out and get it and push it and get it and push it, and you just work it and work it and work it. Well, peasant bread, you don't have to do that. And if you want the recipe for peasant bread that uses white flour, I would be happy to send you that too. It is so easy, and for some reason it tastes so good. All right, so now I need to get my pans ready. I usually use two bread pans, right? Well, I'm going to use only one bread pan because I'm going to show you some other stuff. I could also make a miniature bread loaf, and you can also use a cookie sheet and just put it on one side. I'll show you that as well. One of the things that I like to do, I like to put them in ramekins. Let me show you. So I'll put them in ramekins like this. This must be the 4-incher or so. And it's funny because it's like it becomes its own little bread bun for one person. So let me show you. I'm going to not do this one. I'm going to show you this one, and I'm going to show you the other two pans. First of all, they have to be oiled, or you can use parchment paper if you have parchment paper. I'm going to use my spray oil just because it's fast and easy. And that was for my dough. And I don't know if your dough is looking like it's gotten a little bigger. Mine does look like that's the way it went. So I better hurry up. I'm going to get my spray. I'm going to spray. Sorry, I'm trying not to let it go everywhere. My husband tells me that I spray like a maniac with this stuff. Okay, so there's that one. I don't use spray on this because it's a special bread pan and you're not supposed to use spray on it. So I actually grabbed the first thing that came to hand, and that was our butter. But sometimes I will use coconut oil if that's what I have, or any kind of shortening that you might have is just fine. So yeah, doing the pan like this is always a little bit longer, but I really love this pan. Okay, so I got that one oiled. And now, guess what I need? Ha-ha! I have paper towels. Now I can also keep a wash rag nearby for my fingers if I want. Either way. All right, so I got that one. And then I'm going to spray this one as well. Now the next time you make your own bread, instead of watching the yeast slideshow, you can get your pans ready. So actually the instructions tell you to do that first. I always know that I've got 15 minutes to do it. So here's the deal about peasant bread. It is so cool. I love this. All you do is blop it. That's going to be, well, that should be okay for that size. Okay, so I blop it into my container. That is too much. So no, you don't get to blop in there. Okay, so then I'm going to blop it into here, some of it. Notice that I reached in my drawer and I got another utensil. So I've got 2 spoons going, my really big spoon, and then another spoon to help kind of get that dough in. Okay, so I got that in that container, and it doesn't look so pretty, but here's a little tip of something that I do. All right, now the actual recipe says, oh, and blop them down on 2 different sides of your cookie sheet. And that is fine if that's what you want to do. So I just wanted to show you that you can do this by blopping it down. I think it tells you to use your hands. I'm not going to use my hands. I mean, on the recipe it says that. I don't want to use my hands because then it gets, okay, fine, I'll use my hands. I'm going to make a mess. That's all right. Because guess what? I have paper towels. I also have a wash rag over here. So here I go. Ah. So I'm just going to blot this down into the center of my cookie sheet because I'm just doing the one on the cookie sheet, not all. So what I'm going to end up with is one loaf that looks like a bread loaf, one small little portion that looks like it could be a personal bun to make a mini sandwich of some sort. Now, here's what I do to make it look pretty, okay? Or better, I don't know. Anyway, to not make it look like so chunky. So I use my water and I get the rest of this bread dough off of my hands. Okay, good. Now I'm going to use that hot water to pat my dough. Now I'm letting it run because it's not hot enough here. And oh, I have my apron on. I forgot to mention that. If you have an apron, you might want to. It comes in very handy for getting stuff off of you real fast. Of course, then you need to wash it. Okay, so here's the deal. I use a wet hand. I'm not holding water. I'm just getting a wet hand. And then I touch it to make it a little bit smoother on top so that it looks better and it doesn't stick to my hand like the dough usually does, okay? So that is just something that I do, okay? If it starts sticking to my hand, I'll put a little more water on it. I'm going to put that right there with on my stove. See here? Put it right here. Move that. I'm going to do the same thing here. Warm water on my hand. See, I got rid of most of the water. I just make the top look cute. Isn't that cute? I suppose if I made a 3D sculpture, that would be interesting. More cute than this. Maybe I should get a knife and draw an animal indentation. I can draw a smiley face. Okay, that is going to be a very interesting bun and come out with a smiley face. Okay, now with this block, I usually wouldn't do anything. I'm doing both hands. And yes, I know I'm leaving the water running because my hands get so dirty. I kind of need the water already on. So again, not a lot of water. I'd already shaken it off. And I just kind of rub down the top, around the edges on this one. So that it comes out with a beautiful shape on top. Now, got my hands washed. So if you did it so that you have 2 blobs on your pan, that's great. If you did it in 2 bread pans, that's great. If you have 4 or 5 of these and did it that way, 4 or 5 or 6 or 7, it takes a lot to fill these. That's great too. It's just fun to experiment sometimes with what you can cook bread in. You could have even done it in cupcake pans, but use a lot less dough in each one. And that way they're almost like having little rolls, personal rolls for people for dinner. Okay, not the people for dinner, the rolls for dinner for each individual person. Okay, just making clear. All right, so now here's what's going to happen. You think to yourself, now what? Okay, I always turn on my stove light to remind me that I'm about to turn on the thing. I see that it doesn't help very much, does it, to see well, does it? Whoops. All right, well, that looks a little bit better with the lighting from the windows. It's fine. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to turn on the oven for what? To 425 degrees. Oh, I forgot. You can't see as well with that. So I'm turning on my oven to 425, right? Got that? You do the same as long as you are allowed to do that. Okay, so whoever is supposed to be helping you, then get that oven on to 425. Now here we have this bread sticking out, right? We cover it. I always use clean kitchen towels. And then once I use those clean kitchen towels, then I will put them in the dirty laundry because then they have dough all over them and you don't want that much in them. So I have clean kitchen towels. I'm going to cover these two with one of them. This guy is going to be a little bit harder because what might happen, and hopefully won't happen to you very much, we will find out, is I'm going to cover it, but it's going to, in these, it's not sitting on the dough. When I cover this, it's going to be sitting on the dough. So we'll see if the dough sticks to this. And if it does, we'll all cry. No, we'll just get it off and wash it off with a towel too. All right, so I'm putting this right there. Now guys, at this point, it's going to be about 30 minutes. So I'm going to set my timer. That is a really obnoxious sound. Okay, so I've set my timer for 30 minutes and I'm going to push go and then start. And in about 30 minutes is when you will be able to have the bread right. Your bread will be probably tall enough yet now after 30 minutes and your oven will be warm enough. So I'm going to pause and come back. No, it has not been 30 minutes, but there's one more important thing I need to tell you. Clean up. Clean up your mess. Put things away that you no longer need. I still need my timer, but I can clean up the rest. So go do that. It has only been 25 minutes, but look at my bread. Let me show you. These are now over the tops. See how that, it was down here and now it's over the top. Same thing with this one. It was lower than this and now it's showing over the top, right? Okay. And then with this one, okay, that was in the, on the cookie sheet, but I realized if I put it in the cookie sheet, I won't have room for the rest of these. So I put this in another pan. And this is not as high risen, probably because I disturbed it while it was rising. But as you can see, it's kind of spread out more. So I'm going to go ahead and put them in my oven. Once I get them in the oven, I must turn the oven down, or if you have a helper who does that for you, let them do that. You must turn it down to 400 degrees. So here we go. And I'll put them all in my oven. See this small one? Let me tell you about it in just a second. Notice I'm not touching the racks. Let your parents put it in the oven for you if you need to. If you have permission to put things in the oven, that's great. Now I close it, I turn it down to 400. Okay, now that is only supposed to bake, whoops, for how many minutes? 10 minutes. Okay, I got that going because once it goes for 10 minutes at that high temperature, then I turn it down again. And then there's another about 15 to 20 minutes. And I just wanted to let you know, watch on when your bread is rising, that you let it get up a little bit, but I mean, you could let it go higher, but you know, so 25-ish minutes, maybe not a full 30, but you can experiment and try it at the full 30. Now, we have to get something else ready. We need our cooling racks. Now, this is just a small one. Now, when I have just the 2 loaves, this is what I usually use. And hold on. I realized I had to turn off that light for my computer to get the right lighting so I don't get all darkened out. Okay, so I will use this like when I just have the 2 loaves in the bread pans. Sometimes though, to give myself more room, I happen to have a really big cooling rack. So yeah, I'm gonna do that for my bread loaves. Now now we have to wait some more. You caught me with my low-tech book, and it is time to change the temperature again. Now we're going down to 375. And we have to go for 15 to 20 minutes. With the smaller ramekin, or with the 2 loaves that kind of spread out, I probably want to give them a little less time than the 20 minutes. But with my my bread loaf in the bread pan, I probably want 20 minutes. So I'm going to do this for 15. And then I'm going to check out the other 2 because they might get done faster because they're more open to the heat of the oven. Oops, not 17. Okay, let me try that again. Annoying sound again. And 15. No, I'm going to go 16. Okay, there. Now, back to my low-tech book. Okay, we are less than 30 seconds. I have my butter ready. I have my cooling rack ready. My pot holders ready. I'm ready. Yes! I think all my bread is ready. See how nice and brown that is? Can you tell it's nice and brown? It thumps good. Now, please remember the temperature of bread when it comes out of the oven. Now, notice ramekin and big old pot holder. And, well, I was going to take this out, but I guess it doesn't want to come out. And I need to get the other ones out. Turn off your oven. Oh, if it's ready. Now, the 15 minutes did just fine. I was looking at it just a minute earlier, and it looks like they're done. So I'm getting everything out right now. So there's my loaf of bread. Here's my loaf of round bread. So now I will try to take these out. Notice I'm still using pot holders so that I don't hurt myself. You do remember the temperature, right? Of bread from the oven, the middle of which is what, 200 degrees? Ooh, hot. Okay, so that looks pretty good as well. Later on, when I open these up, if I find they're a little, I don't know, doughy or gummy on the inside, then I know that next time I will need to go ahead and, okay, fine. I will need to go ahead and let them cook for just a smidgen longer. This one seems to be caught. I must not have gotten, oh, there we go, there we go. Ah, there we don't go. Hold on. We can do this. There. Come on. Come on. There. See? Isn't that fun and pretty? I would not recommend this size for just a big dinner with a roll, because this is really big and really hefty, and don't be eating while you're cooking, I guess. Sorry about that. Okay, so I'm going to pause. I'm going to let this sit for maybe 2-3 minutes. Then we're opening it up. All right. I've got my bread knife, and let your parent or whoever is helping you to use that. If you have a bread knife or some other big knife, okay, you need permission. I have 2 plates. Now, why would I do that? Oh, because my husband will want some too. So here we go. I was thinking, do I open just one? Which one? I thought, all 3, because you must see all 3, right? Right. Okay. So with the little one, you can, like I said before, you can always just cut it right through here, and then it becomes almost like a hamburger bun, but it's pretty thick with the whole wheat. Okay. So I'm just doing slices because I like, oh, butter is ready. Okay. Ooh, check that out. Nice and steamy. Can you see the steam? I don't know if you can on camera. See how nice that is? All right, there's one piece. Put this up a little so you can, nope, down a little. There we go. All right. So kind of cut it weird there. It might be just a little gummy in there. So next time I will go longer than 15 minutes. I might go 17, that kind of thing. Okay, there we go. Another yummy, steamy piece of bread. All right, so that is what the center of that looks like. Let's try the flatbread. Now, hopefully yours did not go through the trauma of being picked up right in the middle of rising to be put on another pan. Yours might be a little bit plumper, which is great. Let's see. And it is hot to touch. So apparently I didn't let it cool long enough. All right, let's see what we got here. Looks kind of the same. How about that? I'm going to half this. There is something about freshly straight out of the oven bread That is so good. It'll bring all of your family members from all over the house into the room. Oh no, I hear a family member all over the house coming
Freshly
in.
baked bread? I'm here.
Yepers, I got butter. Hold on, I got 2 plates for us. Yeah, sorry about the lighting. You know, remember I said this is low tech. So we're doing low tech. Yum, yum, yum. You guys,
Yum.
go ahead and wait for your breads to get a little cooler if you need to, or get it cut. But we are ready to say bye-bye. Bye now.